Hello guys. Back since quite a while I guess. My issues with my YouTube channel has been resolved, which is good. Sorry for the voice change, they updated the software, now the voice has gone all weird. Let's begin. With pure determination in his eyes, Naruto leapt from tree branch to tree branch. Though he was not using the Ninetales Chakra mode or Sage mode at that time, he knew exactly where he needed to head to in order to get off of the island where he had been training with Killer Bee. I can't believe Granny Tsune tried to keep me there, Naruto thought as he glanced down at the note that he held in his left hand. It had been slipped under the metal plate of his forehead protector by Iruka after it had fallen off. I'll end this war myself, Naruto promised himself in a whisper. Will you, now? As soon as the foreign words were spoken, Naruto stopped himself and entered his Ninetales Chakra mode. The instant that he did, he sensed a malevolent chakra that Kisms paled in comparison to. Spinning around, Naruto spoke the name of the man before him. Madara Uchiha. He involuntarily snarled the moment after he spoke the man's name. He saw the change in appearance. More specifically, he saw the Rinnegan in Madara's formerly covered eye. Oh, do you like it? I decided to take back what's mine, Madara said with a chuckle. That's actually what I'm doing now. You contain my old pet, and I'd like it back. Fuck you, Naruto said as he dashed forward with the incredible speed that he possessed in that form. Madara looked slightly amused at the attacking Naruto. That did not put the blonde on guard as much as the spinning Sharingan in Madara's eye. In an instant, Naruto's chakra cloak dissipated and Madara held out a hand. Shinra Tensei. Shit, Naruto thought, feeling the sudden lack of power in addition to the gravitational powers of the Rinnegan. He flew back and slammed into a tree before he could process another thought. As he slid to the branch under the spot that he impacted upon, Naruto heard Madara speak again. Really? What would possess you to use my pet's power against me? Weren't you aware that I could completely control it? Maybe you thought that I could only control it and not its power. Oh well, Madara said with a nonchalant shrug. I must thank you for getting out of whatever chakra isolation chamber you were in. I was incapable of finding you until about 10 minutes ago. And now, I know where the Eight Tails is also. It must be nice to know that you undermined the efforts of the entire shinobi world to protect you. It turns out that I won't even have to get involved in the war after all. All I have to do is go to the location where I first sensed you at, and I can get the Eight Tails. Take comfort in the knowledge that you will live a little longer. I have to seal the Eight Tails before the Nine Tails, so you'll have 5 days left to live. No more, no less. Naruto's eyes suddenly opened, revealing that they were yellow and shaped like the eyes of a toad. I saw that in Setsu's recording. That's Sage mode, Madara thought. In a matter of seconds, Naruto had a Rasen Shuriken in his hand and threw it at Madara. Madara's eyes narrowed a fraction as he saw the attack. He knew what it could do. Thus, he simply used Shinra Tensei to dissipate the Rasen Shuriken. So, you're still going to try to fight? Madara said as Naruto dashed towards him with a hand held back. Madara knew that he could not use Shinra Tensei on Naruto again at that moment. Nagato may have had a 5-second delay between uses, but Madara had only had the Rinnegan for a few days. As a result, Madara's delay was closer to 15 seconds. Madara was by no means defenseless though. I'll let you cool off, Madara said as he began to use his space-time migration technique. The sensation of spinning in on himself had Naruto disoriented, but his determination to defeat the Elder Uchiha was still present. I don't think so, Naruto said as he fought against the Uchiha's power with every fiber of his being. Something unlocked within Naruto as he fought against the power that was trying to teleport him. The feeling of the power unlocking caused Naruto to close his eyes for a brief moment. When he opened his eyes, Madara gasped in shock. No longer were toad-like eyes in Naruto's eye sockets. Instead, his pupils were crimson with black shuriken-like emblems in them. That's Itachi's Mangekyo, but how? Madara thought in shock. I won't give up, Naruto yelled as the new power flowed through him. Naruto had never been a very intelligent person. If he had, he might have considered the possible consequences of using his own power, natural energy, and the new power within him to fight against Madara's power. The conflicting powers, combined with the fact that one of them was a space-time ninjutsu, could only spell trouble. With the Rinnegan and Sharingan, Madara was able to tell that something bad was about to happen. Thus, he cut off his space-time migration technique and focused all of his efforts on becoming intangible. Madara barely managed to do so before a massive explosion radiated from the exact spot where Naruto stood. When the dust cleared, Madara found that he was standing in a crater that one of the large toad summons could have sat in comfortably. Madara's eyes widened further as he regained tangibility and found that he could not sense Naruto anymore. He couldn't sense any trace of the Ninetales chakra either. All that was left in the crater, other than Madara, was the metal plate of a leaf forehead protector. For the first time in many decades, Madara found that he had no idea what to make of the situation and even less of an idea as to what his next move should have been. I should have had Zetsu record this. Madara thought as he teleported away. I was foolish to send him to watch the Eight Tails. No one would ever learn what happened to Naruto, not in that timeline, at least. His eyes opened to a cold, white room. Gathering his senses, Naruto found that he was lying in a rather uncomfortable hospital bed. He was clad in a hospital gown, and he was inside one of the rooms of the Hidden Leaf Village's hospital, despite the fact that pain had destroyed the hospital in his assault. Is this a genjutsu? Naruto thought as he closed his eyes once again. He knew ways to deal with genjutsu, so it would not be too much of a problem, even if he was under the thrall of Madara's Sharingan. He reached for the Ninetales chakra, knowing that the switch to its chakra would break any genjutsu on him. After all, genjutsu affected the target's chakra. If they could draw upon a second source of chakra, it was practically useless against them. Eyes widened as he felt a distinct lack of the Ninetales chakra. Did Madara extract the Ninetales from me? Naruto thought curiously. There was no way to completely prevent him from even sensing the fox's chakra. It was part of him, or it had been. How am I still alive, if he did? He had no intention of completely ruling out genjutsu though. The only two possibilities that jumped to mind were that he was under genjutsu or the Ninetales had been extracted. If the latter was true, then that meant that someone likely used a jutsu like Chio had used on Gaara after the One Tail had been extracted from him. He did not want to fathom the possibilities of Tsunade, Sakura, Shizune, or anyone else sacrificing their lives to bring him back. Naruto bit down on his life immediately. He knew that he was very low on chakra, so he did not want to use any more than he needed to, and dispelling genjutsu was very chakra-intensive for him. His control had never been good, after all. When blood came from his lip, Naruto frowned. Nothing had changed. I guess there's only one more thing I need to do, Naruto thought. With that thought, he formed the Ramhan sign and molded a very small amount of chakra. His new seal should have appeared the moment he had done that, but nothing happened. Before Naruto could fathom what that meant, the door opened. Naruto would not have been surprised if Tsunade, Shizune, Sakura, Kakashi, Iruka, or any of his friends had entered the room. The man who walked into the room threw Naruto for a loop that he had not expected. Hiruzen Sarutobi was standing in the doorway, looking at Naruto with a pipe in his mouth. He looks younger than he was when he died. How is this possible? Naruto wondered. Memories of how others addressed him in Naruto's youth came to the blonde at that very moment. It is an honor to meet you, Third Lord Hokage. Naruto did not even consider the possibility of the Hokage before him being an imposter or the effects of a genjutsu. He had no idea what was going on, but he was sure that it was the real man. It's always interesting when someone that I've never met is able to recognize me just by sight, Sarutobi said as he entered the room and shut the door. I'm afraid that I'm not here to socialize though. Did I do something wrong? Naruto asked, seeing that Sarutobi was starting to be very serious. He had a feeling that he was about to learn something important. Somehow, you entered my village without alerting anyone. That clearly meant the guards, ANBU, the Hyuga clan, and the barrier team, though Naruto only knew that because of his allegiance to the village. Many people suspect that you are a spy. Not a very good one, Naruto said without missing a beat. I'm clearly in your hospital with only 1/10 of my chakra, standing in front of the main hailed as the god of shinobi. I absolutely must be a spy. Am I right? Sarutobi actually smiled in response to that. One could argue that you hope to gain my trust. One could argue that you could have had my mind read while I was out of it, Naruto countered. One could argue that the entire shinobi world knows that I wouldn't do that, Sarutobi replied. I'm not going to argue about this, Naruto said. He really did not want to argue with the man that he considered his grandfather in his youth. You can say I'm a spy and imprison me, or you can choose not to. Trust me when I saw I'd make a horrible spy though. I'm not that good at concealing my chakra, and I have even more chakra than most jonin. I'd stand out. Sarutobi seemed to consider that. After a few minutes, he asked, did you say that you're only at 10% of your chakra? He sounded skeptical. That's right, Naruto said, nodding in agreement. Actually, I'm probably closer to 8%. I'm not that good with math. Never was. That's impossible, Sarutobi stated. A sensor told me that you have half as much chakra as an average jonin right now. That sounds about right, Naruto said, nodding in agreement. His words only served to shock Sarutobi. I'm not sure why my chakra's so low right now though. Must have been from that last fight. His fight with Madara Uchiha came to mind when he said that. What's your name? Sarutobi asked as he regained his calm. Oh, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Sarutobi nodded in response, not appearing surprised by the last name. You were found in a jacket that bears the insignia for the Uzumaki clan. Am I to assume that you really are a member of the clan? Naruto let out a small laugh in response, shocking the Hokage. To be honest, I never even knew there was an Uzumaki clan until just recently. I was orphaned the day I was born, and I just found out that my mother was a member of the Uzumaki clan. An eyebrow was raised at that. You didn't even know that there was an Uzumaki clan? A nod was received in reply to that question, though it seemed that it was not an acceptable answer. How can that be? The Uzumaki clan and the village hidden in the whirling tides were only destroyed 10 years ago at the start of the Second Shinobi World War, Sarutobi said, looking at Naruto carefully. How could you not know of a clan as famous as the Uzumaki clan? Where have you been? Hiding under a rock? Nagato said the Second Shinobi World War was started by the Hidden Leaf Village. Maybe they started it after the village hidden in the whirling tides was destroyed, Naruto thought. But if what he just told me is true, then I'm in the past. Is it even possible to travel back in time? And if it is, then I must be a year before the start of the Third Shinobi World War. Damn it! I need answers. He knew that he could not get them soon at all, though. Civilians don't talk about shinobi clans often. When they do, they talk about uchiha or hyuga, not Uzumaki, Naruto replied, careful not to lie. He knew that Hiruzen Sarutobi would spot a lie even faster than a hyuga. I'm only a ninja if a ninja is someone who uses ninjutsu. That was completely true. If he was in the past, then he certainly wouldn't be a leaf ninja unless he attempted to join them. Is it really that hard to believe I never heard of them? Sarutobi sighed upon hearing Naruto's words. He was unable to detect any lies, though he could see that there was more to the story than Naruto was revealing. That was to be expected, though. He's a ninja if I ever saw one, but I believe that he's telling the truth about not being a formal ninja, Sarutobi thought. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt in regards to your backstory, Sarutobi said with another sigh. You must understand that your sudden appearance is still alarming, though. How is that? Naruto asked, curiosity piqued. Well, you appeared inside my village without alerting anyone, and then I find that you are a distant relative of the Senju clan of the forest, the clan that my sensei was a part of. Furthermore, you are suffering from a mild case of chakra exhaustion and your body seems to have gone through a great level of strain lately. The medics actually ordered that you be watched over after your release. Unlike Naruto, Sarutobi was capable of lying without arousing a hint of suspicion. The god of shinobi could lie to an uchiha and a hyuga at the same time, all the while proclaiming that he was the sage of six paths and could shatter mountains with a clicking of his tongue. He was simply that good. Oh, I see, Naruto said, clearly caught off guard. You will be released in an hour, actually, Sarutobi said, surprising Naruto once more. I will arrange for a couple Chunin to give you a tour of the village at that time. Once the tour is finished, you will be brought to my office to meet the Chunin that I am assigning to watch over you. Hopefully, we will be able to figure out how you appeared in the village by the time you are at 100%. Naruto nodded slowly with a hint of reluctance in the motion. What will happen when I am at 100% and have figured out how I got here? Sarutobi walked towards the window of the hospital room before he answered the question. If it is determined that you are not a spy and your answer is acceptable, you will be allowed to leave. If you wish, you may choose to join the village instead of leaving, though. That is a moot point for the moment, though. You should instead focus on recovering and figuring out how exactly you got here. Naruto nodded in agreement. He wished to figure out how exactly he got there as well, though he doubted that it would be a simple answer in the end. I will take my leave now, Naruto Uzumaki, Sarutobi said, glancing back at the blonde. I will ask a nurse to bring you the clothes that you were found it. They appeared mostly undamaged when I last saw them. Make sure you are ready for your tour in 1 hour. My ninja do not like to be kept waiting. Naruto mentally snorted at that last sentence. He was reminded of Kakashi at that moment. Kakashi had always kept everyone waiting, though his tardiness was normally over-exaggerated. Naruto could only remember a handful of times that he was more than 15 minutes late to anything, and those were never important events. Nonetheless, Naruto nodded in understanding. He had never been the type to be late unless the event that he was being late to was something related to academics. He had loathed the academy, so he didn't consider his tardiness and truancy to be anything of note. I will see you later, Sarutobi said as he turned and left the hospital room. By the look on the Hokage's face, Naruto was capable of determining that he was confused. The prospect of the man called the professor being confused was quite hilarious to Naruto. Once the door shut, Naruto exhaled in relief and thought back over everything that the Hokage had said. So, the Second Shinobi World War ended 4 years ago. That means that the Third Shinobi World War will begin in a year, Kakashi-sensei's father will commit suicide in 3 years, and I will be born in 9 years. Wow, this is pretty fucked up, Naruto thought. Yes. Naruto would often use those last words to describe what had happened for years to come. Naruto was thankful for the hour between Hiruzen Sarutobi's departure and the arrival of the Chunin that were to give him a tour. When he had spoken with Sarutobi, Naruto had been disoriented from everything that had happened. If he had been told that he had 17 children, he probably would have taken it in stride without a single worry. That disorientation had worn off, though, and Naruto was trying to figure out what exactly was going on. He had never considered the possibility that time travel was real. Nonetheless, he was in the past. Before Naruto could process that train of thoughts, two shinobi entered the room. Naruto's eyes widened considerably as he recognized the two shinobi. The first one was Shikaku Noro, and he looked just like Shikamaru had the last time Naruto saw him, even down to the attire. Unlike Shikamaru, Shikaku had a single scar on his face already though. The second one was Inoichi Yamanoka, and he looked like a slightly older, male version of Aino. He wore a black forehead protector, a solid black outfit, light grey arm guards that covered his forearms and the backs of his hands, and an open red vest. "Are you Naruto Uzumaki?" Inoichi asked. "Yeah, that's my name," Naruto replied, nodding in response unconsciously. "You're a Yamanoka, aren't you?" Inoichi smiled at that question. "I suppose we do look rather distinctive, don't we?" "Not as much as the Noro," Naruto remarked, looking toward Shikaku. He was mentally sweating at that moment. Shikaku was said to be the smartest man in the Hidden Leaf Village in Naruto's time. If anyone could figure out that something was truly unusual about Naruto, it was Shikaku. "I just know you're going to be troublesome. Blondes always are," Shikaku said with a yawn. "We should introduce ourselves nonetheless though. I'm Shikaku Noro, the 15th heir of the Noro clan." "And I'm Inoichi Yamanoka, the 15th heir of the Yamanoka clan," Inoichi said, ignoring his friend's earlier comment about blondes. "It's nice to meet you guys," Naruto said as he rose to his meat. "I'm ready for this tour if you guys are." "Let's go then," Inoichi said. With that, Inoichi and Shikaku led Naruto out of his hospital room to begin his tour. As it turned out, the tour was much needed. After all, the village had apparently changed greatly as a result of the Nine-Tails attack on the village. The Uchiha clan's compound was located in a completely different place as well. During the tour, Inoichi and Shikaku had been very serious and focused entirely on their mission, but Naruto saw an opportunity to change that as they were headed to the Hokage's office. "Do you have any questions?" Inoichi asked. "Not really," Naruto answered. "Is there any advice you'd like to offer?" "Well, we should probably warn him about the noble clans," Shikaku said, lazily looking towards his friend. "Aren't the noble clans common knowledge?" Inoichi asked. "The Hidden Leaf Village has noble clans?" Naruto asked, honestly surprised. He had never heard of noble clans in the village. "I guess they aren't common knowledge after all," Inoichi said, shaking his head. "The Hidden Leaf Village has 4 noble clans. These are Aburame, Akimichi, Hyuga, and Uchiha. Aburame and Akimichi are pretty easy to deal with. The former treats you fine unless you do something to give them a negative opinion of you. The latter treats you even better, provided that you don't call them fat. It's Hyuga and Uchiha that you really have to worry about. I guess I never heard of the noble clans because Itachi massacred his clan when I was 7. I doubt most people would want to talk about the noble clans too soon after one of them was killed to the child," Naruto thought. "The best advice you can take in regards to Hyuga is to avoid them when you can, never try to use stealth around one, never fight one using taijutsu, and be respectful," Shikaku said, thinking about the few Hyuga he actually knew on a personal level. "There's even less advice for Uchiha. Avoid them if you can, don't look them in the eyes, and don't let them see you use ninjutsu." Naruto nodded in understanding at most of the things Shikaku said. He had fought Neji using taijutsu, and he knew the power of the Sharingan. He had no intention of reliving his past mistakes. "Here we are," Inoichi said as they arrived in front of the door to the Hokage's office. "Good luck." With that, Inoichi and Shikaku left Naruto alone, and the blonde opened the door. When Naruto saw what was inside the room, he nearly froze. Hiruzen Sarutobi was sitting behind his desk as expected, but a 14-year-old Kushina Uzumaki was sitting in a chair next to the desk as well. Looking at the situation carefully, Naruto could understand why the third Hokage would have Kushina Uzumaki there. Though he was not exactly the most intelligent person around, he could see something that was that obvious. Kushina was the only Uzumaki in the village. Naruto was an Uzumaki. He definitely doesn't trust me, Naruto thought. He's trying to make it look like I'm not being watched. After all, someone who appears to be a distant relative of mine could easily want to look after me. "You're just on time," Sarutobi said as he gestured towards Naruto. "Come in." Kushina turned to look at him immediately, and Naruto was able to get a good look at her. Though she was easily recognizable as a younger version of the woman Naruto met in his mindscape, she was dressed quite differently. She wore dark blue sandals, black stockings that went to her thighs, a dark blue skirt, a white kimono with dark blue trim, a wide dark blue obi, and a dark blue banded forehead protector. He can't be an Uzumaki, Kushina said immediately. His hair isn't red. Everyone knows the Uzumaki clan has red hair. We did a blood test when he was out. He has the genetic markers of the Uzumaki clan. One of his parents probably had blonde hair, Sarutobi responded without missing a beat. It was clear that he had expected such a reaction. Kushina frowned at that news. Does he even know the Uzumaki clan's fuinjutsu? No, I don't, Naruto answered, catching her attention once again. I've only known that I was actually the son of a member of the Uzumaki clan for about a week. I do know some regular fuinjutsu. Fuinjutsu is a rare art, Sarutobi stated. I'm surprised that you know how to use it. Are you sure you don't belong to a village? I'm sure, Naruto said with a grin. Hopefully I'll belong to this one before too long. That seemed to surprise Sarutobi, though not in an unpleasant way. That was understandable though. If Naruto had as much chakra as he claimed, then he would be a rather valuable addition to the village. It was rare for someone to possess such an extraordinary amount of chakra, after all. Large pools of chakra did not make a man into a great shinobi though. Sakumo Hatake, like every member of his family, did not have much chakra. He was still the second strongest ninja in the village though. I won't press further for now, Sarutobi said, looking from Naruto to Kushina. Now, I want to make it clear right now that you two will be living together for the next few months. Naturally, this decision has been made because you are both Uzumaki. Does she live in a large enough place for that? Naruto asked, glancing at his mother. She was left a rather nice house by the village's last Uzumaki. I believe it is a 3-bedroom house, so you shouldn't have any problems living there for a little while, Sarutobi answered. Lord Hokage, don't I have a say in this? Kushina asked. It was clear that she was not completely comfortable with the arrangement. Don't worry about it, Naruto said before Sarutobi could answer her. You have nothing to worry about. I won't bother you any more than I have to, and I'm obviously going to be watched by ANBU. Kushina's eyes widened at that and Sarutobi chuckled nervously. You're a clever one. Might I ask how you knew about the ANBU? Sarutobi asked curiously. I'm a complete stranger to you. Why wouldn't the Hokage go to such lengths to protect his people? Naruto asked. Sarutobi merely nodded in agreement. I won't require you two to stay together for any more than 3 months, and ANBU will be watching Naruto the entire time. Is that satisfactory, Kushina? She nodded, though reluctantly. I'm not sure about it, but I'll give it a shot. Thank you, Sarutobi said with a small smile. And I'll answer the question you came here to ask now. He will be back in the village in a couple months, unless their mission lasts longer than expected. Thank you, Lord Hokage, Kushina said with a radiant smile. Confusion was clear on Naruto's face, an occurrence that would be quite common in the near future. 3 months after awakening 25 years in the past, Naruto found himself walking towards the Hokage's office. The only escort he had was the squad of ANBU that stayed out of sight. He did not have to go into sage mode to sense them, but he knew that they were there. He inwardly sighed as he thought about the lack of a proper escort there. It was not as if he cared about having an escort. On the contrary, it was about Kushina's avoidance of him. Naruto had originally thought that he would be able to become good friends with Kushina, which would have enabled him to get to know his mother better without her knowing who he really was. She had treated him coldly instead though. It seemed that he reminded her of her dead kin and did not wish to be around him. Thus, he found himself being watched over by the ANBU more than her. In fact, there were some days when Kushina left before he woke up and did not return for a few days. The only time he had asked about where she had gone to, she had said that she had gone to a friend's to get away from him. He had not asked again. I still haven't seen Dad, Naruto thought sadly. He did not think Minato Namikaze would treat him as Kushina had done so far. His father was said to be a very nice person, after all. Naruto knew that he could not think too much on meeting his father though. He had other matters that were of more pressing concern. After all, he was once again at full strength and had mostly figured out how he appeared in the past. He just had to explain it as best as he could to the Hokage and avoid revealing that he had been teleported through both time and space instead of just space. It did not take the blonde long to reach the Hokage's office. He knocked on the door as soon as he realized where he was. Come in, Sarutobi said from the other side. When Naruto opened the door, he saw that the Hokage was by himself. Lord Hokage, I've come to become a ninja of your village, Naruto said, stepping through the door and shutting it. I see. Tell me now, do you know how you got here? Sarutobi asked. I was fighting this masked man that had a special space-time ninjutsu. He tried to use his jutsu on me to get me out of the way, but I fought against it with all my strength. I'm guessing I used up most of my chakra fighting it, Naruto answered, looking the Hokage straight in the eyes. That's plausible, Sarutobi said carefully. He could tell that the blonde was not lying to him, but a lie could only be told if Naruto believed someone other than he spoke. A man could say that 2 + 2 = 35, and it would only be registered as a lie if the man believed differently. That was what made believing Naruto risky. I'll permit you to fight one of my shinobi as a means of testing your ability. If you win, you'll become a chunin. If you lose, you'll become a genin. Regardless, you will be under a 6-month probation where you will not be allowed to do any missions above the rank of C. Naruto reluctantly nodded in acceptance of those terms. Who will I be fighting? Is there anyone in particular you'd like to fight? Sarutobi asked, though it was uncertain as to whether he would take the opinion under consideration or not. I've heard that Lord Jiraiya of the Sannin has an apprentice. Would I be allowed to fight him? Naruto asked. He had seen his chance to meet his father, and he was hoping that the idea would appeal to the Hokage. I don't know about that, Sarutobi said as he lifted a file from his desk and opened it. The boy you speak of is Minato Namikaze. He is among the most skilled chunin in the village. Do you really want to risk becoming a genin? I won't lose, Naruto said with fierce determination in his eyes. Please let me fight him. Sarutobi closed the file and looked at Naruto carefully. Are you aware that Minato Namikaze has become involved in a romantic relationship with Kushina Uzumaki in the past 6 months? No, I didn't know that, Naruto replied. The look on his face revealed his surprise. How does that concern me? How do you suppose she will look at you if you manage to defeat him? Sarutobi asked. I don't care, Naruto answered matter-of-factly. She can hold a grudge against me as long as she wants. She's already started, so why should I try to stop her now? Sarutobi nodded after a few moments and said, I will arrange this little fight. It will take place in 1 hour. Be at the front gates at that time. I'll show you to the training grounds from there. Thank you, Lord Hokage, Naruto said with a short bow. On that note, their meeting ended with the Hokage arranging the fight and Naruto going to prepare. An hour and 15 minutes later, Naruto was at the third training ground at the place where Kakashi had given him the bell test when he was 12 and when he was 15. Standing off to the side was Hiruzen Sarutobi, Jiraiya, and Kushina. Naruto's focus was on the blonde in front of him though. Clad in blue sandals, blue pants, a mesh shirt, a white jacket with blue stripes down the sleeves, and a blue banded forehead protector was Minato Namikaze. Only 3 months of being around his mother and the fathers of Team 10 allowed Naruto to appear indifferent in the presence of his father and his godfather. Still, it took every ounce of willpower he had not to run up to one of them and give them a hug, which would have freaked them out. Sarutobi-sensei, are you sure this is a good idea? Jiraiya suddenly asked. As I understand it, the rules permit them from using any jutsu, and the jutsu that Minato just completed during his last mission isn't something most people can defend against. He's already created the Rasengan? He's only 14. Naruto thought in shock. There was no other jutsu that Jiraiya could be talking about. Of that he was certain. I want to fight him, Minato suddenly said, looking Naruto over carefully. I can tell he's strong. Minato, you don't need to dash, Kushina began. Yes, I do, Minato interjected. Can't you sense it? His chakra, he had more than Jiraiya-sensei, and he's only 2 years older than us. I need to test myself. There's no way, he can't have more chakra than one of the Sannin. Kushina said, looking from Naruto to Jiraiya. Can we start this, or are we going to have a talk-off? Naruto asked, feigning boredom. What's a talk-off? Minato asked inquisitively. No fucking clue, Naruto answered. I figured you'd know. You're the one that's just talking to the people who are supposed to watch us. Begin then, Sarutobi said, catching Naruto's not-so-subtle hints. The instant that Sarutobi spoke those words, Minato disappeared from sight. Naruto quickly jumped back, barely dodging Minato's kick as he reappeared in front of the spot where Naruto had been standing. You're fast, Naruto commented. Minato's eyes narrowed at that. He was more than a little surprised that Naruto had managed to dodge his attack. It appeared that his movements had been read, which was a first for Minato. Curious as to whether it was a fluke, Minato channeled chakra into his legs and dashed towards Naruto with even greater speed than he had used before. When he neared the older blonde, he threw a punch at his face. When Naruto did not even both to move, Minato suspected that it had been a mere fluke earlier, but then Naruto's left arm formed a guard between them. That did not stop Minato from attacking with his punch though. Much to Minato's shock, Naruto was able to block the punch with his raised left arm and grab the younger blonde's mesh shirt with his right hand. Using Minato's hesitation to his advantage, Naruto used his left hand to grab Minato's right forearm. With a simple twist of his body, he threw Minato off of his feet and slammed him to the ground. Seconds after Minato slammed into the ground, Naruto landed on top of him, driving his knee into the younger boy's stomach. How did he do that? Kushina asked, catching Naruto's attention. The momentary distraction allowed Minato to push Naruto off of him and roll away. Rising to his feet, his breathing was heavy. You know how to fight someone faster than you. There was no question in Minato's words. I've never fought anyone who could do that. Blocking my punch with a single arm, that's insane. Naruto smiled as he thought back to Rock Lee. He had learned that maneuver from the taijutsu specialist in his time. He could always trust Lee to figure out how to deal with a fast opponent. The way you slammed me to the ground. I've never met anyone your age that was that strong, Minato said as he finally caught his breath. I'm not fighting you in taijutsu anymore. You're too dangerous in such a fight. Do you really want to do that? You know how much chakra I have, Naruto said, slightly uneasy about the thoughts of a ninjutsu battle. He already knew that most of his techniques were out of the question. It was not as if he could use the Rasengan, after all. Without saying a word, Minato's hand flew to his shuriken pouch and snapped towards Naruto. 3 lightning-charged shuriken flew at Naruto, who quickly defended with 3 wind-enhanced shuriken. He's a wind type, Minato noted as he saw the shuriken he threw fly away from Naruto. Naruto's shuriken had cut halfway through Minato's. Minato's hands quickly formed the hand signs of boar, ram, snake, horse, and dragon before he thrust them forward, palms open. A torrent of lightning flowed from his hands towards Naruto. Shit! What am I supposed to do? Naruto thought as his hands formed his signature hand sign. Before the lightning could reach Naruto, 25 shadow clones appeared in front of the older blonde, taking the full impact of the jutsu. Seeing that his desperate gambit worked, Naruto withdrew a kunai from the holster behind his shuriken holster and threw it through one of his clones. Minato barely managed to dodge the speeding kunai, though it still cut his arm as a result of the wind chakra that it was coated in. His good, Minato thought. Another thought crossed his mind though. Where'd he go? He had lost track of the original Naruto in his evasion of the kunai. This fight's over, Naruto said as he placed a kunai to Minato's throat. Minato's eyes widened as he felt the blade touch his neck. How did he get behind me? You certainly know how to use the body flicker technique, Sarutobi commented. It looks like this match really is over now. I declare Naruto Uzumaki as the winner. You should have used that jutsu, Jiraiya said, shaking his head. I'll never live this down once Orochimaru finds out about this. Thanks for your concern, Sensei, Minato said, rolling his eyes as he felt Naruto remove the kunai from his throat. Turning to face Naruto, he said, You're pretty good. I hope we get to spar soon. That sounds like a good idea to me, Naruto said with a grin as he put his kunai up and offered a hand to his unknowing father. Minato simply smiled and returned the gesture. They were both unaware of the redhead glaring at them, though Sarutobi and Jiraiya were not. If you will come with me, I'll make your entry in the Shinobi Corps official and explain the probation that you will be placed on as a foreign-trained shinobi, Sarutobi said, catching Naruto's attention. With that, Naruto and Minato broke their handshake and the former followed Hiruzen Sarutobi away from the training grounds. Have I really been here for a year already? Naruto thought as he walked towards his apartment. Memories of everything that had happened in his first year in the past rushed over him as those thoughts crossed his mind. The first 3 months had been very unpleasant, of course. The reason behind that was quite obvious though. He had been living with Kushina for those first 3 months, and she had come to hate him because he reminded her of her dead kin. It's not pleasant knowing that your mother hates you for being alive instead of her parents, Naruto thought sadly. He knew that she was unaware of their actual blood relation, but it did not lessen the hurt by much at all. The 6 months after that had not been as hurtful, though it had been filled with events of mind-numbing boredom. He had only done 3 C-rank missions during that time, and the C-rank missions had always been done with Inoichi, Shikaku, and Choza. From what he knew of their kids in his time, Naruto surmised that their purpose was to restrain him if he attempted to get away. Their clans excelled at that, after all. Still, he preferred the C-rank missions over the guard duty, fence painting, weed pulling, and garbage collecting. He had almost forgotten how horrible D-rank missions were. Thank the stars that Tora's not alive yet, Naruto thought as the image of the feudal lord's wife's cat came to mind. The last 3 months had been a great deal better though. With his probation at its end, Naruto had been allowed full access to the training grounds and ninja library, and he had been allowed to do C and B-ranked missions. Naruto could not help but grin at the look on Sarutobi's face when he requested that Inoichi, Shikaku, and Choza accompany him on every mission that he did. He mainly did it to fuck with the old man's mind, but he had to admit that they were all pleasant individuals, and he knew their abilities well from his time with their children in the future. Still, he would never have claimed to be friends with them. They were hesitant to trust him completely still. They're different than they were in my time, Naruto mused. I suppose the Third Shinobi World War, the Ninetales attack, and having children changed them. Naruto was broken from his musing as he reached his apartment, which was coincidentally located in the same building as the apartment that he had lived in before the Hidden Leaf Village was destroyed in his time. He had been unable to obtain the same apartment though. As he opened the door, his eyes narrowed. Someone was inside his apartment. Their chakra was faint, almost as if it were being suppressed. He had begun to learn to notice slight irregularities in chakra recently though. Given that his chakra was so strong and bountiful, an intruder's chakra stood out like a white slip of paper in a solid black room. Show yourself, Naruto said calmly as he formed the dog hand sign. Would you actually use a wind jutsu on me? Jiraiya asked as he appeared in the middle of the apartment. Pervy Sage had some kind of technique that made him transparency, Naruto remembered. Taking a deep breath, Naruto took his hands apart from the hand sign and shook his head. You're Minato-sensei, aren't you? Minato-sensei? Is that what I'm being called now? Jiraiya asked in feigned horror. I am the great sage of Mount Myaboku. Ladies cheer my name from the east to the west. I am the great Jiraiya. Did you say something? Naruto asked as he cleaned out his left ear with his pinky. He knew how to deal with Jiraiya, especially since he was used to the realization that he was still alive. You wound me so, Jiraiya said as he clutched his heart with his right hand. You have a message from the old geezer? Naruto asked, not paying attention too closely to his words. I bet Sarutobi-sensei's going to love hearing that, Jiraiya countered. Realizing what he said, Naruto frowned for a few seconds before he simply shrugged. Perhaps I was talking about someone completely different. Regardless, you're the one who suggested that I was talking about the Hokage. I'll make sure to tell him you think he's an old geezer too. Jiraiya busted up laughing at that. Once he calmed down, a grin was plastered upon his face. You're good, Uzumaki. But yeah? Sarutobi-sensei asked me to inform you that he needs a private meeting with you. I was headed out to see Minato, so I figured I'd stop by your apartment to deliver the message first. I was wondering why one of the Sannin was delivering a message, Naruto said as he nodded his head in understanding. How did you recognize that hand sign as the start of a wind jutsu though? Jiraiya laughed at that question. Everyone knows that the dog hand sign is mainly used for wind jutsu. There's also the fact that Minato talks about how skilled you're with wind jutsu. I heard you've added a handful of wind jutsu to your arsenal in the last 3 months. That makes sense, Naruto said, careful so as to not confirm the rumors that Jiraiya had no doubt heard already. It would not do for him to have learned too much about Naruto's abilities yet. He had been careful not to reveal too many of his abilities to anyone. In his time, Naruto's abilities had consisted of shadow clones, summoning, and Rasengan. It had made him a very predictable opponent, something that Naruto had realized early on in his time in the past. He had spent a large amount of time thinking as a result of his inability to do much of anything else, after all. Shaking his head from those thoughts, he turned his back to Jiraiya. I'm going to head to see Lord Hokage. Is there anything else you needed from me? Well, I'd like to give you one piece of advice, Jiraiya said, catching Naruto's attention quite easily. Don't overreact during your meeting with Sarutobi-sensei. You aren't going to like it, despite the fact that you're not in trouble of any kind. Before Naruto could question Jiraiya's meaning, the Toad Sage formed the ram hand sign and disappeared in a flicker of wind. Stepping through the door and shutting it, Naruto muttered, at least he didn't leave leaves all over my apartment again. He then used the body flicker technique to appear inside of the administration building. When Naruto reappeared in the administration building, he made sure to place himself on a different floor than the Hokage's office was located on. Appearing on the same floor had a tendency to make ANBU nervous, and nervous ANBU had a tendency to overreact. It did not matter too much though. He was easily able to reach the Hokage's office after he appeared in the building. After knocking and being granted entrance, Naruto found himself in the Hokage's office alone with the third Hokage. Shut the door and take a seat, Sarutobi said, gesturing towards the chair across the desk from him. Once Naruto did as commanded, he said, are you familiar with the current situation among the 5 great nations? I believe so, Lord Hokage, Naruto replied. Seeing that more would be appreciated, he added, the Land of Water just went through another civil war, and a young man was just named to the position of 4th Mizukage. The Land of Lightning is still recovering from the Second Shinobi World War. The Land of Wind is in a panic after the 3rd Kage went missing a few months ago. And the Land of Earth seems to be on the verge of instigating another war. Sarutobi nodded in agreement with those statements. The last two are a rather big problem, which I will be addressing to the whole village tonight. The Hidden Sand Village and the Hidden Rock Village are now at war, and the war has already spilled into the border countries. We're allies with most of the border countries, Naruto said automatically. The only border country they were not allied with in that area was the Land of Rain. That's correct, Sarutobi said, pleased that Naruto had already seen what was about to happen. The Third Shinobi World War has begun, hasn't it? Naruto asked. Sarutobi allowed a grim smile to surface at that. I'd like to say that it won't escalate into a war of that magnitude, but I can't honestly say it. 2 of the 5 great shinobi villages have declared war on each other, and our allies have suffered casualties already. When I issue a declaration of war on Sand and Rock tonight, the Third Shinobi World War will truly begin. Why are you telling me this? Naruto suddenly asked. I'm just a tune-in, one that isn't widely trusted, at that. Everyone who is of sufficient skill is being promoted, Sarutobi said with a serious look in his eyes. The genin ready for the position of Chunin will be announced tomorrow. The Chunin ready for promotion, however, is being handled today. That widened Naruto's eyes. Are you promoting me? Why else would I ask you here and tell you all that I have told you? Sarutobi asked rhetorically. But to make myself clear, you are being promoted, along with many others. So, I'm going to be a Jonin? Naruto asked. He could not believe that he was going to be a Jonin after all the time that had passed. Not quite, Sarutobi said, stopping Naruto in his tracks. You are being promoted to the rank of Special Jonin. Jiraiya's advice suddenly flashed in Naruto's mind. You don't trust me, Naruto said immediately. Sarutobi frowned, though he did not deny Naruto's accusation. For the past year, I've had ANBU watch you dash. You said that you wouldn't have me watched after my probation ended, Naruto said, clearly unhappy about the situation. It's common policy to have a foreigner with an unknown past watched for no less than a year by ANBU. Telling you that I called ANBU off after only 9 months was intended to make sure you weren't a spy after all. If you had acted too strangely after that point, you would have been captured and brought to the torture and interrogation division of ANBU. You came up clear though, Sarutobi said with a sigh. I don't like the situation any more than you do, but you have not yet earned the trust of the village as a whole. If I tried to promote you to a full Jonin right now, I would receive objections from my advisors, the elder shinobi of the village, the Jonin commander, and the clan heads. While they cannot overrule my decisions, I do need unity in the village if we are to come out on top in this war. Though Naruto did not like the fact that he was denied the promotion to Jonin for such a reason, he found that he could not claim that Sarutobi was wrong in his decision. What am I supposed to specialize in? Naruto asked after a few minutes of though. Special Jonin are Chunin with Jonin-level skills in an area that they specialize in, aren't they? Sarutobi looked pleased to hear the question since it signified much more than curiosity. From what my ANBU have told me, your skills with wind jutsu are incredible. In fact, they claim that you can use no less than 10 wind jutsu, one of which they've never heard of before. Naruto looked away as he mentally cursed. It seemed that someone knew all about his skills after all. That jutsu is one that I created. Sarutobi nodded. It seemed that he had expected as much. Your skill with wind jutsu has made you a valuable addition in the Land of Rivers. The Land of Rivers? Naruto asked. Yes, the Land of Rivers is the country that the village hidden in the valleys resides in, Sarutobi said with a nod of his head. It sits between the Land of Fire and the Land of Wind, making it a key border country. It will be one of the most important fronts of the war, at least for a little while. What are the other important fronts? Naruto asked curiously. The Land of Grass and the Land of the Waterfall are the other 2 most important fronts of the war at the moment, Sarutobi said, only casting a subtle glance of suspicion at the question. The most important thing that you need to keep in mind is that you will be serving under Sakumo Hatake in our main camp in the Land of Rivers. There will be 4 smaller camps. Each smaller camp will consist of 75 shinobi, while the main camp will consist of 200 shinobi. Similar but different arrangements will be set up in the other nations that we will have a shinobi force within. You're being awfully loose about details, Naruto noted. Sarutobi smiled. I'm placing a little trust in you, so don't complain. Ah, right, forgive me, Naruto said with a small smile. Details about the running of the camp will be explained when you arrive there, Sarutobi said as interlocked his fingers. You, along with everyone else that receives notice that they will be taking part in the war, will leave the village 2 days from now at 8 in the morning. The generals of each camp are leaving a day early though, so Sakumo will be waiting for you when you arrive. So, the White Fang is my commanding officer. That'll be interesting, Naruto thought. Do you have any more questions? Sarutobi asked. Naruto thought for a moment before nodding. Was anyone else promoted that I know? Sarutobi nodded slowly. Kushina Uzumaki was offered yet another promotion to Special Jonin based on her Fuinjutsu skills, but she rejected it again. I'll never understand her though. He let out a nervous chuckle when he saw that Naruto was unhappy to hear about the other Uzumaki. Minato Namikaze, Inoichi Yamanoka, Shikaku Noro, and Choza Akimichi were all promoted to Jonin though. Sarutobi paused at that point, appearing to consider something. If I recall correctly, you met Shibi Aburame on a mission last month. He just received the promotion to Jonin as well. All the way at the third training ground, Jiraiya and Minato Namikaze could suddenly hear a scream, though it did not sound quite as loud as a normal scream. Must be the distance, Jiraiya mused aloud with a grin. What was that, Jiraiya-sensei? Minato asked curiously. Jiraiya looked at Minato at that point. That was Naruto learning that someone he's already beaten now outranks him. With that, Jiraiya busted up laughing, thinking about the look on the 17-year-old blonde's face at the news. He wished that he could have stayed to see it, but Sarutobi had forbidden it. It always surprises me when I see how empty your apartment is, Minato said as he entered the living room of Naruto's apartment. As he spoke, he gestured towards the blank walls and lack of decorations throughout the room. It shouldn't, Naruto said from the kitchen where he was eating his morning ramen. Should I have pictures of my wonderful time living at your girlfriend's house? Should I have pictures of my amazing 6 months of probation doing D-rank missions and the occasional? Nope, Minato said with a smile that promised he was going to burst Naruto's bubble. You should have pictures of the last 3 months as a full ninja of the village. You should have pictures of all the times we've trained together. You should have decorations to make this feel like your home. You should make your place look like it's a home and not just some place you wouldn't mind leaving at the drop of a hat. Is that your personal opinion, or is it your professional opinion, Jonin Namikaze? Naruto asked, stressing the title. Both, very special Jonin Uzumaki, Minato replied, keeping the same grin on his face the entire time. Both burst out laughing at that point. They had a unique friendship. But seriously, I've come here for a reason, Minato said as his laughter reached an end. I'm going to be one of your commanding officers in the Land of Rivers, so I've taken personal responsibility of getting you in some war-appropriate clothing. I mean, seriously, you're still wearing that orange jumpsuit that they found you in. No, I'm not, Naruto said, looking at the orange jacket hanging on the wall. I paid to have more made. Good thing too since Inoichi threw the original one in the campfire one night. Minato face-palmed at that moment. You are screwed up, Minato said with a sigh. But regardless, you won't be wearing orange when we leave tomorrow. General Hatake was very clear on that matter when he talked to me this morning. You spoke to Sakumo Hatake? Naruto asked in surprise. You should address him by his title. After all, he is one of the 4 shinobi that are leading our village in the war on the various fronts that we'll be fighting on, Minato said with another sigh. But enough of that. You're trying to distract me. We need to go and find you something suitable to wear. We'll be away from the village for the next 6 months, after all. 6 months? The old man didn't tell me that, Naruto thought. Fine, I'll come with you, Naruto said as he finished his ramen and deposited the cup in the trash can. Let's go. As he said the last part, he slipped on his sandals. 2 hours later, Naruto and Minato walked out of the clothing store. Both wore new attires. Naruto had gotten blue sandals, blue pants, a blue shuriken holster and a blue kunai holster at his right thigh over bandages, a long-sleeve blue shirt with the Uzumaki insignia on each shoulder, and blue fingerless gloves with metal guards on the backs of them. He had replaced his black banded forehead protector with a blue one as well. In short, Naruto looked rather ordinary, though he had insisted on not getting a flak jacket until he was a full jonin. Minato had gotten a modified version of what Naruto had. The only real difference was that his shirt did not have the whirlpool emblems on the shoulders, and the sleeves of the shirt appeared to have metal band around them, giving them a segmented look. Like Naruto, he had chosen not to get a flak jacket. His reasons for it remained unknown to Naruto though. Are you happy now? Naruto asked, glancing at his friend. That depends, are you going to show me that jutsu you created? Minato asked with a smile. He had been trying to get Naruto to show him the wind jutsu that he had created, but Naruto always claimed that it was too dangerous to use on anyone that he did not wish to kill. Sure, I'll show it to you, Naruto said with a grin. Once Minato appeared to get excited, he added, I'm sure you'll see it when I use it in the war, after all. Minato deflated at that point. Don't make me kick you. Don't make me show you my secret finger jutsu again, Naruto countered, making Minato wince involuntarily at the memory of how Naruto ended one of their many spars. That's forbidden. I actually obtained a written statement by the Hokage that technique is forbidden in spars of any kind, Minato said nervously. If I wait a few days, I can write it off as friendly fire, Naruto said, making a shiver run down his friend's spine. "You, sir, are a sick, twisted individual," Minato said before he picked up his pace. Naruto just laughed in response. Once Minato was too far ahead of him to notice anything, Naruto sighed. Naruto was still trying to figure out a way to convince Minato to teach him to use the Rasengan. All of his attempts to do so had ended in failure though. Minato did not want to teach it to anyone else yet, even with the offer of Naruto showing him all of his jutsu. The biggest reason that it annoyed Naruto was because he wanted to be able to use the Rasengan again without anyone questioning how he could use it. I guess I'll have to wait, Naruto thought sadly. Once he could use the Rasengan again, he would be able to use its upgraded form, the wind-style Rasengan. Though it was not as powerful as the wind-style Rasen Shuriken, it would be a very useful jutsu to have in his arsenal. For a moment, he imagined the look on Minato's face upon seeing Naruto use the Rasengan in conjunction with nature manipulation. I'll have to wait until I can see that one day, Naruto thought, with a hint of amusement. The next day, Naruto found himself leaving his apartment building in his new clothes and with a simple backpack slung from his shoulders. Getting an early start, eh? Minato asked as he appeared next to the older blonde. It's a half hour until we're all supposed to meet at the front gates. I'm not exactly heading there that early, Naruto said without so much as a glance at his unknowing father. I doubt I'll ever get used to this. I know he's my father, but I just can't see him as the man who sealed the 9 tails inside of me and restored the seal after I went into my 8 tails form, Naruto thought. He seems so different. A shinobi does not arrive early. Nor does he arrive late. He arrives precisely when he means to. Those are the words that my sensei passed on to me, Minato said with the ever-constant grin on his face. Thus, you are starting out early. Your sensei only arrives right when he means to because he peeps at the hot springs too much to actually be early, Naruto replied, rolling his eyes. It's better to be 20 minutes early than 1 minute late. That's my belief. But what if you show up in the middle of a battalion of foreign ninja 20 minutes before they would have been gone from there? Minato asked. Then I kill the battalion of foreign ninja. We earn medals in war for killing people, not for showing up after a battalion of enemies are outgone, Naruto said as he clasped a hand on Minato's shoulder. You'll need to stay by my side if you want to see that jutsu, so you might want to be early too. Minato nodded with a smaller smile than normal. I'll always have your back, even if my girlfriend seems to hate you. There is no seems about it. She does hate me, Naruto said with a sigh. She's wrong about it too, Minato said, surprising Naruto. I don't normally reveal the secrets of others, but this concerns you, so I'll make an exception. Minato took a deep breath before he continued. She's told me that she hates you because she sees every one of her kin that died when the village hidden in the whirling tides fell every time she sees you. I won't deny that the deaths of her clansmen were tragic, but that happened quite a few years ago. It's not as if you were responsible for it either. You shouldn't put your relationship at risk just to stand up for me, Naruto said. I don't blame her for hating me. I knew why she did all along too. Minato nodded grimly. Kushina doesn't like that we've become such close friends, but she has to accept it. I'm not the type of guy that would forsake a friend just because a girl says I should. Naruto looked away before he allowed himself to smile. He was often reminded of the reasons that Minato Namikaze was admired by his peers. He was a kind person that held true to his beliefs with an unwavering will. That, among many other things, stayed on Naruto's mind as they continued to the gates in order to wait for the scheduled time of deployment. 30 minutes later, approximately 2,000 Leaf Shinobi would leave the village, going to their assigned posts, leaving the remaining 8,000 Leaf Shinobi in the village to do missions, act as reserves, and do other important things. It was around 4 in the afternoon of the 3rd day of the war when Naruto reached Sakumo Hatege's camp. To the gratitude of the group that Naruto had traveled with, it had taken a little more than a day to reach the camp. The trip had not been too horrible, or that was the belief that Naruto had come to, at least. Due to the fact that so many shinobi were going to the same spot in the Land of Rivers, they had divided into groups of 10 and had staggered departures. That would have meant that there were 20 groups headed to Sakumo's base, but as it turned out, Sakumo had taken 70 of the 200 shinobi to the base when he left the day after the Hokage made his declaration of war. Ironically, Naruto had been placed in the same group as Minato and Kushina, along with 7 Chunin that he had never seen before. As tense as it was, Naruto could not deny that the trip had been relatively quiet. Naruto took a deep breath as they reached the entrance of the camp. They were the last ones to reach camp, so nearly 200 people were already there. A massive tent inside a stone wall, that's all it is, Naruto thought as he actually got a good look inside of it. The camp was surrounded by a stone wall with 4 gaps each at the 4 cardinal directions. If Naruto had to guess, he would have wagered that the wall was created by Earth-style ninjutsu. Inside the camp, about 200 tents were set up, though there seemed to be a gap in the very center of the camp. Even from that distance, Naruto was able to see a very large tent in the center of the camp. He was sure that it was Sakumo's tent. Though he had never been involved in a war before, Naruto remembered hearing something about camps like the one he was in. If he remembered it correctly, the commander of a camp like that would use his tent as a type of war planning chamber. Judging by what he could see around that large tent, Naruto guessed that there was a tent set up for medics and a tent set up for dining. Before he could think any more on the matter, he heard someone speaking. "Hey Kushina!" Naruto's eyes quickly found the speaker, a woman a few years older than Naruto with raven hair tied back in a ponytail and onyx-colored eyes. She wore black sandals, black pants with bandages around the lower half of her shins and around her right thigh, shuriken and kunai holsters at her right thigh, a short-sleeved black shirt with a raised collar, bandages wrapped around her forearms, black fingerless gloves, and a black banded forehead protector. Though he could not see her back, he was sure she had the Uchiha's fan insignia upon it. "Mikoto, it's great to see you," Kushina said as she rushed past the group she traveled with and hugged the raven-haired kunoichi. Like the others that Naruto had seen thus far, Kushina had changed her wardrobe before they left the village as well. Kushina had taken to wearing an attire similar to her friends, except her shirt was different. It appeared to be a normal long-sleeve shirt for the most part, but the hem of the shirt went down a hand's length below her waist and it was multicolored. It dark blue from the hem of the shirt up to the top of her breasts, while above that, along with the sleeves, was all black. It was a bit ironic that Kushina, who recognized herself as the last of the Uzumaki, did not have her clan's insignia anywhere on her new attire, while Naruto did. "That's Mikoto Uchiha, Kushina's best friend," Minato whispered as he stepped next to Naruto. His words were too low for any but a ninja standing within a foot of the speaker could hear. "Try not to verbally take out your aggression towards Kushina in front of her. The few times you've done it, I've ignored it since she deserved it. She doesn't have that tolerance though." Instead of replying, Naruto turned to the Chunin that were still behind them and said, "Report to General Hatake. We'll be along shortly." As soon as his words were verbalized, the Chunin strode past them, glad to be able to finally arrive at their destination. His words caught the attention of Kushina's friend too, something that was completely unintended. "Minato, why are you letting a special jonin give orders to people put under your command?" Mikoto asked, breaking her hug with Kushina. It was hard to tell if she was teasing him or truly questioning his actions. "I was briefed about this special jonin. She distrusts me, but I don't see hate in her eyes," Naruto thought. "Nice to see you too, Mikoto," Minato said with a blank expression on his face. The look in his eyes revealed his displeasure at her words. "Special Jonin Uzumaki is my direct subordinate, as authorized by General Hatake a couple days ago. If he gives an order, it has my authority behind it. And I thought it was tense between me and Kushina," Naruto thought. That was not the only thought on his mind, however. "He didn't tell me about this direct subordinate business. I can tell that he isn't lying," thought. "General Hatake named him as your direct subordinate?" Mikoto asked in disbelief. "That's correct, I did," Sakumo Hatake said from behind Mikoto. He was dressed in his modified jonin uniform with distinctive short, white sleeves and jagged red edges over his shirt's long sleeves. The tanto that he wore vertically could be seen at his back. "Greetings to you, Jonin Namikaze, Special Jonin Uzumaki, and Chunin Uzumaki." "Greetings to you as well, sir," Minato said with a slight inclination of his head. "Jiraiya-sensei speaks well of you." A smile found its way on the White Fang's face at that. "He speaks well of you too." He glanced at Naruto momentarily. "He seems impressed by your friend too." "That's no surprise, General Hatake," Minato said as he looked at his friend. "Naruto is who he is." "You are right about that," Sakumo agreed with an appraising eye turned towards Naruto. "You've no doubt been informed of your importance at this camp." It was clear to Naruto that it was not a question, so he simply nodded his head, signaling that he was paying attention to the man's words. "That's good to hear," Sakumo said with clear honesty in his voice. "Once the fighting gets started, you'll be spending a lot of time at my side. Lord Hokage claims that you know more about wind jutsu than anyone else that I have here. We'll be fighting puppeteers and wind users," Naruto said thoughtfully. "At least we won't have to fight them at the same time." "Of course, we will have to fight them at the same time," Mikoto interrupted. "That's what war's like." "Mikoto Uchiha, please refrain from arguing with the specialist, especially when he's correct," Sakumo said with a sigh. He could already see that she distrusted Naruto more than most people did. He suspected it had to do with her friendship with Kushina. Puppeteers and wind users never fight alongside each other. It takes a single wind jutsu to destroy a handful of puppets, especially when most of the Sans wind users channel their jutsu thrown folding iron fans. Mikoto pursed her lips, displeased by the fact that her commanding officer had dismissed her words in favor of that of a special jonin. To make things clear, Special Jonin Naruto Uzumaki is to be treated as an equal to every Jonin in the camp with me as the only exception. He can only issue orders to the men under Jonin Namake's command, but he is not to be ordered around by anyone except for myself or Jonin Namake's. Those are my orders, Sakumo said, looking at Mikoto with steel in his eyes. There was no doubt in anyone's mind that Sakumo meant every word. Now that that is taken care of, I would like to see Special Jonin Uzumaki at my tent. Mikoto can show the rest of you to your tents. That is why I sent her to meet with you when the sensors detected you. Shouldn't she have shown the Chunin that came with us to their tents then? Minato asked, looking at his superior. Yes, she should have, Sakumo said, glancing at her. I'll overlook the lapse of judgment this time though. I should have expected her to get distracted. Regardless, I pointed them in the right direction. Seeing that things were getting tense again, Naruto said, General Hatake, can we get a move on? You wish to speak to me, unless my memory's failing me. Sakumo mentally thanked Naruto for an easy exit out of the tense situation. He could easily see that something was going on, but it was clearly none of his business. Staying would make it his business. Thus, it made sense to get out of there in a hurry. Follow me then, Sakumo said as he turned and walked away from the group, not even glancing over his shoulder to make sure that Naruto was following him. The way to Sakumo's tent had showed Naruto that the camp was set up exactly like he had thought it was. There were approximately 200 small tents built around a 100-yard-wide imaginary circle. That circle made up the center of the camp, and it was composed of 3 large tents set up in a triangular formation. As he made his way to Sakumo's tent, Naruto saw the medical tent to his right and the tent that was used as a mess hall to his left. Neither tent was as large as Sakumo's, which bore the kanji for fire at its front, similarly to the administration building in the Hidden Leaf Village. The trip to Sakumo's tent was peaceful, right up until they were inside the tent and the canvas flapped shut. As soon as that occurred, Sakumo spun around, drew his tanto, and brought it in a downward arc at Naruto's head. Acting on instinct, Naruto drew a kunai from the kunai holster at his right thigh and parried Sakumo's blade as he hopped backward. The canvas of the tent seemed to be blown outward as Sakumo's lightning-charged tanto struck Naruto's wind-enhanced kunai. Naruto attempted to form the hand sign to use the Shadow Clone Jutsu, a feat that would not have been too difficult, even with a kunai still held in a reverse grip in his right hand. He found that he could not move at all though. Shadow Paralysis Jutsu, success. The voice of Shikaku Noro was clear, making Naruto frown further. He did not think he could break such a jutsu before the next attack came. You did as well as expected, Sakumo said as he cut the flow of chakra to his tanto and sheathed it, confusing Naruto even more. I had to test you. Being able to draw a kunai and parry my blade that quickly is quite impressive. I dare say that you would have cut my tanto in half if I had not used chakra flow as well. You were just testing me? Naruto asked in surprise. But what would have happened if I had not blocked your attack in time? Sakumo smiled in response. Your comrade assured me that you would not be injured, regardless of that. He says you can pull off a substitution or a body flicker at the drop of a hat. Isn't that right, Shikaku? Yeah, that's right, Shikaku Noro said as he stepped out from behind a map stand. His hands were still in the rat hand sign. I've seen him train with Minato. Can you please drop the jutsu? I'd rather not have to break it. It'll probably scare every sensor in the camp, Naruto said in annoyance. He was trying to regain his calm, but he was not pleased by the test at all. For a moment, he had thought that he was going to die. You can break the Shadow Paralysis Jutsu? Shikaku asked in surprise. That was not an easy feat by any means. That Shadow Paralysis Jutsu. I think Shikamaru said that it was the predecessor of the Shadow Possession Jutsu, Naruto thought. If I remember right, he said that it only paralyzed the target, it didn't make them imitate the user. I have more chakra than you can imagine, Naruto said dryly. I can produce 10 times more chakra that you have without even suffering from chakra exhaustion. It would be like trying to hold a Jinchuriki host. Unseen to the blonde, Sakumo's eyes narrowed at the reference to Jinchuriki. That was not something that most people knew about. The only reason that Shikaku would have known about them was because the Noro clan's hidden jutsu was never to be used on them. Doing so would normally result in the Jinchuriki getting angry and killing the Noro. General Hatake, should I release the jutsu? Shikaku asked lazily. Yes, you may release the jutsu, Sakumo said as he stepped back a bit farther. A single instant later, Naruto's kunai slashed forward in a quick arc, and he collapsed to his knees. The Shadow Paralysis Jutsu had forced his muscles to remain tense, so he'd been unable to stop himself from such an action. With another smile, Sakumo said, I think we're going to get along just fine. He then glanced at Shikaku and added, show him to his tent. He's probably tired, after all. A few minutes later, Sakumo was alone in his tent, and a frown had made its way to his face. His testing of Naruto had confirmed something that irritated him to no end. He's not a special jonin, Sakumo thought as he shook his head. I can't believe Lord Hokage would give him such a half-assed promotion when it's clear that he's stronger than any of the new jonin. I swung my blade too fast for someone with chunin-level taijutsu and ninja tool skills to defend against, and he did it purely out of instinct. The look on his face confirmed that. He deserves no less than the full title of jonin, and I'll be damned if he doesn't get it after we return to the village. From that day, Naruto had a new ally, despite the fact that he was unaware of the fact. A month had passed since Naruto had arrived at the main base in the Land of Rivers, and it had been mostly peaceful so far, which seemed to directly conflict with the very nature of the war that was going on. I don't think I can take much more of this, Naruto thought as he stood at the gap in the western wall of the camp. Though he was pleased with the level of respect that Sakumo showed him in the past month, the dislike that his own mother still showed him was quite difficult to deal with. At least if they were fighting enemy shinobi, Naruto reflected, he would be able to get his mind onto other subjects. Naruto glanced over his shoulder suddenly as he felt another chakra approaching him from behind. The chakra was easily recognizable as that of Inoichi Yamanaka. So, it's happening after all, Naruto thought. Inoichi Yamanaka was the commanding officer of 10 of his kin. They formed Division 1, whose purpose was strictly sensing. They were stationed at the very edge of the camp near the walls, which allowed them to stay in the tents while keeping a close eye on absolutely everything around the camp. The enemy could not have snuck on them as a result of that. The other 9 captains of the camp were Shikaku Noro, Choza Akimichi, Minato Namikaze, Mikoto Uchiha, Shibi Aburame, Hayashi Hyuga, Hizashi Hyuga, Fugaku Uchiha, and Hamaki Mimura. Though all but the last 4 were new jonin, Sakumo seemed to have the utmost confidence in their abilities. I'm the only special jonin in the whole camp too, Naruto thought with an inward sigh. Though it seemed completely irrelevant to the subject matter, it was not in all actuality. It was because of his promotion to special jonin when everyone else became full jonin that Naruto was viewed as inferior by many of the shinobi of the camp. Naturally, they followed Sakumo's orders closely though. What's the vice captain of the 4th division doing all the way out here? Inoichi asked in a tone that was clearly good-natured. I should ask the same thing, Captain Yamanaka, Naruto answered with a small smile as he turned to face his comrade. Like Shikaku, Inoichi's attire had not changed since Naruto had first met him. None of that, Inoichi said with a dismissive hand gesture. I'm here because General Hatake needs to speak with you. I'm sure you know why. Yeah, I think I know why, Naruto said with a sigh. What will Division 1 be doing? You guys made it clear early on that Division 1 won't serve a combative role. Inoichi nodded vigorously. That's true, they won't take part in the fighting. That doesn't mean that they'll be sitting out the coming battle though. They'll be bringing the wounded from the battlefield back to the camp so that the few medics we have can treat them. Since I'm the only jonin among my division, I'll be fighting though. Naruto did not look too surprised to hear that. After all, Sakumo had told him that Inoichi, Shikaku, and Choza would not be acting as captains during battle. Their abilities when used in conjunction were too valuable to have them play roles as commanders. The titles of captain and a vice captain were intended as a way of keeping the camp organized more than anything. I better head that way then. General Hatake wouldn't ask me to come unless he wanted my expertise, Naruto said with a light smile on his face. Inside, he was laughing at his own words. He could not believe that he had become such an expert in a single field that the legendary White Fang wanted to hear his advice and opinions. You do that, Inoichi said with a nod of his head. I'm supposed to round up the captains so they can be briefed. With those words, they headed to do their tasks. You're just in time, Sakumo said as Naruto entered his tent. It was the first time that Naruto had been in Sakumo's tent since the first day that he was in the camp, and he had to admit that it was different than it had been the first time. It had been mostly empty the first time, but it now had a large table in the center of it. A cot sat in the corner of the tent in addition to that, while there seemed to be a few bookshelves, map stands, and weapon stands lining the canvas walls of the structure. Division 1 sent someone? Naruto asked immediately. Sakumo nodded his head with a blank expression on his face. We have 200 battle-capable shinobi in this camp, excluding myself, the medical ninja, and Inoichi's subordinates. They have 500, and there's no way that we can get reinforcements from another camp before the attack begins. Naruto had to admit that the news was grim, but he kept his cool, something that never would have happened before the past year. We'll have to kick their asses without reinforcements then, sir, Naruto replied, barely remembering to add the respectful pronoun to his sentence. We are outnumbers 5-2. Those are not good odds, Sakumo said with a raised eyebrow. We will suffer casualties, Naruto admitted sadly. He hated the thought of allowing any of his comrades to die. We won't lose though. If I have to, I will fight them to a standstill myself. Sakumo looked intrigued by that remark. Would you care to explain how you would go about doing it? Seeing that Sakumo was not giving him an option, Naruto decided to explain his thoughts. I highly doubt that they're sending only puppeteers or only fan users, Naruto answered. It seems more likely to me that they'll send a diverse crowd. When I was still recovering from my chakra exhaustion a year ago, I read a few books on the Second Shinobi World War. They focused on the battles between leaf and sand carefully, and I noticed that they preferred to attack in 3 waves. The first wave consisted of cannon fodder. While they aren't that big of a threat in themselves, they can weaken or kill some of their enemies, and they are expendable. Then, they would bring in puppet users. Because puppeteers can stay at a distance and don't get exhausted in their fights, they could wear their opposition down. And once the enemy was weakened enough, they pull back and let their wind users end it. That's an accurate description of their tactics. I suspect that they will use those tactics as well, Sakumo commented. I was never good at strategy, but I know how to counter that particular strategy. We'll need to take out their cannon fodder without over-exhausting ourselves or taking casualties. I know how we can pull it off too. Once that's taken care of, we'll need to switch to ninjutsu specialists. If we destroy the second wave's puppets, we'll defeat them. A puppeteer is nothing without his puppet, Naruto continued. Then, we'll have to deal with the wind users, which I have several strategies for. I'll need to get a good look at their capabilities before I can tell you which one would be the most effective though. You're very good at passing my tests, Sakumo said with a smile. Shikaku suggested the exact same plan, though he wasn't specific on how to deal with the first wave and he completely left out the third wave since that's your specialty. Naruto smiled, unsurprised by the fact that he had just been tested. He's going to hate my plan for dealing with the first wave. He proceeded to reveal that particular plan, which caused Sakumo to laugh. You are very devious, Sakumo said. I like that about you. That's nice to hear, General Hatake, Naruto said, glancing behind him as he sensed Inoichi's chakra approaching the tent. Sakumo was aware of the approaching Jonin immediately, and he could not help but inwardly sigh at their appearance. There was still one question he had not been able to ask Naruto, and that was in regards to how he would personally bring the battle to a standstill. It seemed that he would just have to be surprised though. That was not something Naruto would be comfortable talking about in front of anyone else, and Sakumo would have his hands busy planning things out. You can stay for this briefing. I'll need you at my side when the battle starts tomorrow, so it would be pointless to send you away, Sakumo said, gesturing to one of the corners of the tent. Catching the hint that he could stay as long as he stayed out of the way, Naruto went over and stood in that corner. Soon, Inoichi entered the tent with Shikaku and Choza following him. He really does look just like a younger version of Choji's dad, Naruto thought. He was correct in that thought too. Choza even wore the same attire that he did in Naruto's time. Minato and Mikoto entered the tent shortly after Shikaku and Choza. It was easy to see that things were still tense between them, especially when they saw that Naruto was present. Shibi Aburame, Hayashi Hyuga, and Hisashi Hyuga entered the tent shortly after Minato and Mikoto. It was still funny to Naruto that Shibi looked just like Shino had when he had last seen him, though Shibi's glasses were of a different style, he had a goatee already, and he had a good on his back for his insects. That was not as funny to Naruto as the fact that Hayashi and Hisashi looking identical to Neji the last time that he had seen him though. The only difference that Naruto could see was that Hayashi wore a black hari over his kimono. Fugaku Uchiha and Hamaki Mimura entered the tent right after the Hyuga twins. Naruto had seen pictures of Fugaku before since he was Sasuke's father and the last head of the Uchiha clan, and he had to say that the only difference between the man in the tent and the man that was killed in the Uchiha massacre, outside of age, was that his attire did not bear the symbols of the Leaf Police Force. He barely glanced at Hamaki Mimura, who simply wore the normal Jonin attire with a bandana-style forehead protector. Naruto had not met the man in his time, and Minato had told him that the man was a first-generation shinobi. Once everyone was gathered in the tent, Sakumo spoke. His voice radiated through the room, making everyone focus entirely upon him. Within the past hour, Division 1 located enemy troops approaching from the west. It is predicted that a force of 500 sand ninja will be here within the next 4 to 6 hours. The war is about to truly begin. Nearly 6 hours had passed since Sakumo met with his direct subordinates in regards to the Sand Ninja that were marching towards their camp, despite the fact that the Sand Ninja had been estimated to show up 2 hours earlier. They're doing it on purpose, Naruto thought as he stood 100 yards away from the western entrance of the camp. He was standing alongside 200 Leaf Shinobi. Furthermore, Sakumo Hatake was standing to his left. I don't know how you do it, Naruto said under his breath. We've been standing here for 3 hours, and you're still calm. This isn't my first war, Sakumo said with a hint of sadness in his voice. You'll get used to it after a little while, unfortunately. I suppose so, Naruto said, nodding in agreement. It was at that moment that everything changed. The sound of stone breaking filled the grasslands that the base was built on, and 20 dragons made of stone came barreling towards them as 100 sand ninja materialized an eighth of a mile away. What the hell? Naruto cursed under his breath as his hand started to form hand signs. Calm down, Sakumo said, stopping him. They hid themselves with a 25-layer genjutsu. It's pretty impressive. I saw through it just a little while ago. There's no need to get involved though. Body expansion jutsu, Choza bellowed as he dashed forward. In an instant, he grew more than 10 times his own size and removed the bow staff that he kept at his back. With a few quick swings of his staff, he shattered the stone dragons. Why do you look so surprised? It was your plan to involve the Aino Shikacho, after all, Sakumo said with a small smile. Oh shit, this isn't good, Choza muttered. Naturally, the mutterings of the massive Akimichi was clearly heard by his comrades. It was at that moment that they saw that there were now 200 sand ninja on the field, and each one had launched a stone dragon. This doesn't match up with the strategies that Chiyo of the Hidden Sand preferred to employ. Jiraiya was adamant that she would be leading the forces against me though, Sakumo thought worried. Wind style, wind wall, Naruto said as his chakra flared with more force than any of the jonin in the army possessed. He thrust his hands forward, and the air in front of Choza, stretching all the way to the ends of Sakumo's forces, grew so dense that it was no longer clear. The sound of thunder, but louder than any thunder that Sakumo ever heard, was heard moments later. All 200 stone dragons had struck Naruto's defensive jutsu. It took a matter of seconds for the wind wall to dissipate. When it did, they say crumbled stone making a line where the wall had stood. Sakumo looked at Naruto in surprise, but the blonde had dropped to one knee and was breathing heavily. How did you do that? Sakumo asked. The question was mainly rhetorical, but he truly did not understand how the blonde had managed it. The chakra needed for one person to create such a powerful defensive jutsu was hard to fathom. Naruto's next word shocked Sakumo even more though. Damn, that took away a quarter of my chakra. I've never tried it on that big of a scale before. I guess I can see how the creator of that jutsu died. Sakumo could not ponder on those words for long though. The final genjutsu that had been hiding the rest of the sand ninja had just been dispelled. General Hatake, that's more than 500, Inoichi said from Sakumo's other side with narrowed eyes. Sakumo nodded in agreement. Don't worry. They were clearly using genjutsu too strong for sensors to deal with well. Inside, Sakumo was very worried. He had held confidence in the sensor's estimate, but he had forgotten that they were not skilled enough to get an accurate guess when the enemy was clearly able to use such powerful genjutsu. What led to that point did not matter to Sakumo though. What mattered was the fact that his forces were now outnumbered by 5 to 1 instead of 2.5 to 1. They're about to charge us, Naruto said quietly. Sakumo nodded his head as 800 sand ninja began to head straight for them, running as fast as they could. 200 shinobi remained where they were standing, and they all had fans in their hands. It was at that moment that Sakumo felt true fear for his subordinates, but he did not show it. Long-ranged specialists to the front, Sakumo said just loud enough for his voice to reach his men. Focus your attacks on the incoming enemies. When they're within 100 yards, jump to the back. At that time, the close-ranged specialists will engage the enemy. Once you get to the back, try to circle around and attack the enemy shinobi from the sides. Be careful not to strike where your allies are. Murmurs of understanding were heard immediately. Gripping the tanto at his back, Sakumo snapped his wrist forward and held his arm before him. His tanto was held firmly in his right hand. He began to raise it in the air when Naruto stopped him. I have an idea, Naruto quickly said. Let me distract them. How? Sakumo asked quietly. Trust me, Naruto said simply. With a nod of his head, Sakumo lowered his sword, delaying the order for attack. That was when Naruto dashed forward with chakra-enhanced speed, shocking everyone. 800 Sand Ninja stood right in the charging Naruto's path, but he did not even look worried. No, instead, he formed his signature hand sign and created 20 clones. What in the hell is he thinking? Mikoto thought. 20 shadow clones won't do a damn thing. The clones, along with the one who created them, ran right into the charging Sand Ninja without even attempting to attack. That was how the Battle of Blood Rivers began. Upon being attacked by the Sand Ninja, all 21 clones exploded into maelstroms of wind chakra. That worked pretty well, Naruto, Inoichi said as he looked behind Sakumo. Sakumo glanced over his shoulder and saw the person that had been standing behind him for the past 3 hours. He wore a black hooded cloak. Removing the cloak, the person shocked everyone around outside of Inoichi and Sakumo. It was Naruto Uzumaki. You took out 100 of them with that attack, Inoichi said as he looked at the corpses that had been mutilated with wind chakra. He had felt their chakra signatures extinguish. Naruto did not respond though. He simply removed his cloak and retook the spot next to Sakumo that his wind-style shadow clone had stood at previously. "That's the technique you wouldn't show me?" Minato asked quietly. He was vaguely aware that Sakumo was raising his tanto. Naruto nodded as Sakumo yelled, "Attack!" Roughly 50 fireballs, 25 blasts of water, 15 earth spikes, 10 blasts of lightning, and 2 blasts of wind were shot immediately. 3 more waves of such attacks were launched before the Sand Ninja were within range, and their numbers had been reduced by a good 300 since the battle had officially started. With the Sand Ninja within the correct range, the more long-distance specialists of then Leaf used the body flicker technique to appear at the back of the Leaf army. As soon the long-ranged specialists were in the back of the army, the close-ranged specialists, which included about half of the long-ranged specialists, charged forward. A battle between armies of shinobi was not as exciting as one might think. When two shinobi fought, they used countless ninjutsu and genjutsu, along with engaging each other in taijutsu. When two armies of shinobi fought, they could not always use ninjutsu or genjutsu. It had a tendency to affect a wide range of people, which made friendly fire quite easy. As a result, most shinobi were limited to taijutsu. Perhaps the most interesting part of the battle, it seemed, was the involvement of Inoichi, Shikaku, and Choza. Shikaku and Inoichi kept immobilizing opponents, the former with his shadow paralysis jutsu and the latter with his mind destruction jutsu. Once they were immobilized, Choza swung at them with his bow staff. That would hurt, Sakumo thought as he saw Choza take out another dozen Sand Ninja. A clicking sound broke his attention from Choza and turned it to his far right though. "Shit!" Sakumo thought as he saw a puppet appear out of nowhere and launch a barrage of needles from its mouth. They were not aimed at him though. Following the direction they were headed, Sakumo's eyes widened. They were headed straight at Kushina, who had her back turned. Another Sand Ninja had gotten her turned around, and they were fighting. Sakumo did not think he could warn her in time, but as it turned out, there was no need. A flicker of leaves appeared directly behind Kushina, and Naruto appeared with his arms crossed in front of him. The stance made his intention clear. He's going to take the hit. Sakumo thought. It did not make sense to him. After all, Kushina had shown her clear distaste for Naruto, and yet, he was willing to throw himself between a barrage of needles and her. It was not something that Sakumo had expected. The needle slammed into Naruto's arms just as Kushina finished off the Sand Ninja that she was fighting. She instantly turned around and saw Naruto drop to his knees with poisoned needles sticking out of his arms. Her mind seemed to freeze at that, but that did not last for long. Her eyes rose to the puppet, and anger could be seen in her eyes. Sakumo could tell that, despite the fact that he was not directly in front of her. A small amount of foul red chakra seemed to surge around her, turning her eyes crimson. With speed that Sakumo doubted he could beat, Kushina disappeared. She reappeared in front of the puppet and shattered it with a single punch. Sakumo was no longer focused on Naruto though. He used the body flicker technique to appear at the blonde side. "Are you okay?" Sakumo asked, worried for the special jonin that he had gained respect for in the past month. "I'll be fine," Naruto said lowly. In an instant, blue chakra exploded from his body, forcing the needles from his arms in a way that Sakumo had not expected. "Don't use too much of your chakra," Sakumo warned. "Pure chakra can't heal the poison from those needles, and you're going to pass out if the poison spreads too fast." Naruto gave the white fang a feral grin as held his hands out before him. "I won't move around too much then." The blonde's chakra seemed to grow tenfold suddenly, and his hands began to flash through hand signs too fast for Sakumo to take note of them all. "I lied earlier," Naruto confessed. "The wind-style shadow clone jutsu isn't my greatest creation. I wanted everyone to think it was so I didn't have to show this jutsu. But here it goes. Wind-style, wind dragon jutsu." Everyone looked at Naruto at that moment. His chakra suddenly grew powerful enough to startle even Sakumo. His chakra was not the chakra of a special jonin. It was the chakra of a Kage-level shinobi. Sakumo knew that Naruto was not actually a Kage-level shinobi though. No, he just has the chakra of one, Sakumo reflected. The air began to spin around Naruto and Sakumo at that moment. All of the Kage-level chakra that Naruto had called forth had filled the air and seemed to be controlling it. The wind continued to spin until it began to take shape. Eventually, a dragon that appeared to be made of a flexible funnel of wind was surrounding the two shinobi. "Don't get too close to it. It's my most powerful jutsu," Naruto said as he panted. "It will shred anything that it touches." Sakumo had no doubts that Naruto was telling the truth. As if Naruto's last words were a command, the dragon suddenly flew towards the enemies, untwisting from the protective funnel around Naruto. Upon seeing the dragon, the Sand Ninja attempted to regroup with the fan users that were still an eighth of a mile away from Sakumo's base. The wind dragon caught them with no difficulty though. After Sakumo first saw the corpse of one of the sand shinobi that was hit by the dragon, he almost emptied his stomach. Not even he was used to such sights. The wind dragon was capable of completely shredding a human body. It did not actually destroy the body. It just made sure that every piece of the body was no longer or thicker than an inch. The only sand ninja left on the battlefield were the fan users and the few shinobi that did not flee upon seeing dragon. You can handle the rest, eh? Naruto asked softly, feeling himself start to lose consciousness. Yeah, we can, Sakumo said. You did good. The last words were spoken after Naruto collapsed to the ground completely. Inoichi, take him to the medics. I'm ending this. Sakumo spoke the last words with a growl as lightning covered his blade. Without hesitation, Inoichi appeared at Naruto's side and did as commanded. Let's go. With those words, Sakumo, Minato, Kushina, Mikoto, Hayashi, Hisashi, Choza, Shikaku, Tsume, and Fugaku pursued the fan users while the rest of the Leaf Shinobi finished their fights with the sand ninja that had not fled. Where am I? Naruto murmured as his eyes opened to the inside of a canvas tent. He attempted to sit up, but his body was sore and it moved sluggishly. Still, he moved his head around to get a good look at the tent that he was apparently in. A quick survey of the tent confused Naruto further though. He was lying on the table in the center of Sakumo Hatege's tent, though the mat of a cot had been placed under him for comfort. What in the hell's going on? Naruto asked weakly as he tried to sit up again. Don't move around too much, Minato Namike said as he brushed the canvas of the tent's opening aside and walked in. General Hatege sent me to check on you. You nearly died. Why am I here then? Naruto asked. His voice was no louder than a whisper. The medic's tent is full, Minato replied. They were able to spare a medic to see to you though. Do you know how much poison you were hit with? Naruto shook his head. Each needle had some kind of poison that was potent enough to kill a grown man in such a small quantity. You were hit by about 10 needles, Minato said, looking at his friend seriously. Luckily, the poison was used in the Second Shinobi World War, and Lady Tsunade of the Sannin created an antidote. If not for that antidote, you'd be dead. Naruto smiled and said, even if I had died, it would have been worth it. Minato shook his head at his friend's statement. I appreciate that you saved Kushina from that attack, but sacrificing your life for hers isn't necessary. It's what any leaf ninja would do, Naruto replied with a small smile. Plus, we're family, aren't we? Maybe she'll actually consider me to be worthy of the Uzumaki name if I keep it up. There's no need for that. I already do. Naruto turned his head and looked past Minato at the feminine voice. Standing behind his friend was Kushina Uzumaki. Minato, I need to speak to Naruto alone, Kushina asked, looking at the older blonde as she spoke to the younger one. Can you give us a few minutes? Minato hesitated for a second, but he nodded his head. There's work to be done anyways. General Hatege was asking for volunteers to collect the bodies. The bodies? Naruto asked faintly. Minato nodded. We lost 100 men. It's estimated that the sand ninja were killed to the last man though. We lost one man to ever 10 the sand lost then? Naruto asked. He did not like the thought of half of his comrades dying, but it was a relatively good thing to only lose that many men. Yeah, but that's mainly because you took out about 500 sand ninja. Some of our men started calling you the Wind Dragon and the Army Killer, but General Hatege brought that to a stop very soon, Minato explained. You certainly won't earn a moniker anytime soon though. There were no witnesses left alive, after all. He noticed the look Kushina was giving him and suddenly cleared his throat. I'll be heading out now. With that, Minato departed and Kushina approached Naruto. Fighting through the pain, Naruto sat up and looked at Kushina. Why did you save me? Kushina asked. Her voice was quiet, but it was filled with strong emotion that rang out clearly to Naruto. It seemed that she was truly conflicted by his actions. Naruto frowned at the question. I thought I explained it. We're comrades and family, he said, looking in her eyes with determination. You can hate me for being alive instead of the family that you knew when you were little if you want. That doesn't mean that I will ever turn my back on you though. As long as my heart still beats, you will never come to harm. That's a promise, and I never go back on my word. Kushina was struck speechless by Naruto's words. What could she say in response to that? She truly did not know. I don't have time to just sit around here though, Naruto said as he slid on the mat so that his feet were hanging off of it. I need to see the battlefield. Much to Kushina's surprise, Naruto landed on his feet and did not make a sound. The look on his face made it clear that he was in pain. You're suffering from severe chakra exhaustion, Kushina said, not wishing to see Naruto hurt any further. That technique you used, you shouldn't use it if it uses up so much of your chakra. Naruto's next action shocked Kushina even more. He started laughing. That clone that I sent to attack the Sand Ninja had half of my chakra. That wall that it created used up a quarter of my clone's chakra. The rest of its chakra went into the other clones that it created, Naruto said once he regained control of his vocal cords. I used less than half of my chakra in that Wind Dragon Jutsu. The only reason that I'm so low in chakra is because I overdid it. And I still have more chakra than I did when I showed up in the village. Don't try to tell me that I'm suffering from chakra exhaustion, because this is nothing. Kushina was beginning to see just what kind of person was standing before her. She seemed to have a bad habit of wrongfully making assumptions about people. She had considered Minato to be flaky and weak when she first met him. And as far as she had been concerned, Naruto had been a worthless excuse of a person. The person before her was not worthless by any means, though. He was strong of character and had a will of fire that burned stronger than anyone that she had ever met. In addition to that, he was powerful. I hope we talk to each other again soon, Naruto said as he walked past her. I'd like to become friends. I'll understand if that can't happen though. With those words, Naruto left Kushina in the tent by herself. The Battle of Bloody Rivers, an apt name, Naruto said as he stood at the western opening of the camp about half an hour later. The ground where the battle had taken place earlier that morning was stained red by the blood that had spilled. I'm the one that stained the ground with their blood, Naruto thought. It was his final jutsu that had actually stained the ground with blood. Finally cutting humans into such small pieces, that was what the Wind Dragon Jutsu had done. Such an action could not be performed without spilling a large amount of blood. Kushina told me you were up. Naruto glanced over his shoulder and saw Mikoto Uchiha approaching him from behind. You're Kushina's friend, right? Naruto asked, still looking over his shoulder. He saw her nod before he returned his gaze to the battlefield. What do you want? Mikoto kept walking until she was standing to his right. Once there, she said, I wanted to apologize to you for the way I treated you since you showed up. I was being unfair to you, as was Kushina. Shut up, Naruto said simply, stunning her. As she was stunned, he turned to face her. I don't give a shit how you treated me. I don't give a shit how your friend treated me. That's in the past, and we're in the present. We're all Leaf Shinobi. We're all comrades. So before you try to make amends, stop yourself. I don't need to hear apologies. You're doing it for yourself, not for me. Much as Kushina was earlier, Mikoto was baffled by Naruto's words. She recovered much quicker though. That did not mean that she could say anything about it though. Well said, Naruto, Sakumo Hatake said as he approached them from behind. Mikoto, I am going to speak to Naruto alone. Go help the others. Seeing that she had no choice, Mikoto walked away as quickly as she could. Once she was out of earshot, Sakumo asked, how in the hell are you still standing? You have less chakra than anyone in the camp right now. Naruto gave him a grin at that. I keep food pills on me. I took a few once I was outside of the tent. That's the only reason I was able to walk here without collapsing. Sakumo sighed. Food pills are dangerous. You shouldn't take them when you don't need them. The life of a ninja is dangerous, Naruto said as he gestured to the crimson-splattered battlefield. I'll take my chances with a few food pills. They're better odds than the ones we were up against earlier. Sakumo found himself nodding before he realized what he was doing, which caused him to let out a deep sigh. Fine. I won't try to stop you from doing it in the future. Smart move, Naruto said with a grin of satisfaction. Now, we need to talk. Naruto immediately thought that he was on a roll. For the third time since waking, he had stunned someone with his words. I don't want you to press the issue of my promotion when we get back, Naruto said simply. How in the hell did you know that I was going to try to get you promoted? Sakumo asked in further surprise. And why the hell don't you want me to press the matter? You're predictable, Naruto said with a small laugh. But anyways, I don't want you to press the matter because the Hokage would give in. And that's bad how? Sakumo asked. He was starting to see the boy before him as an enigma. No one but you and the men here trust me right now, Naruto said with a heavy sigh. I've learned certain things lately. Amongst those is the fact that promoting me to full Jonin based on my first battle is going to rub certain people wrong. We can't have instability in the village, and that will definitely happen if I'm promoted to Jonin once we get back. Though Sakumo would have liked to tell Naruto that he was not such a big deal as to do that, he found himself agreeing with the blonde. Naruto would be the subject of skepticism and distrust for a little while longer at the very least. And you expect no one else to try to push the matter? Sakumo retorted after a few moments. Why would anyone else push for it? Naruto asked rhetorically. I did exactly what was expected of me. As a special jonin in the field of wind-style ninjutsu, why wouldn't I have an incredibly devastating wind jutsu? Why wouldn't I use said jutsu against the enemies of the leaf? Why wouldn't everyone think that you ordered me to do it when you were right next to me, out of earshot of the others, when I used it? No, they won't push it. Sakumo's eyes narrowed as he looked the blonde over carefully. You are nothing like Lord Hokage said you were. Naruto chuckled at that. Lord Hokage doesn't know anything about me, and neither does his ANBU. I kept secrets from them, despite the fact that he had me watched so long, he said. I spent 3 months with nothing to do but sit in an empty house and 6 months doing chores. For someone as active as I used to be, that's a life-changing experience. Sakumo nodded absently as he thought about what Naruto said. Well, look at the bright side, we'll be doing a lot of sitting around. We just took out 1/10 of the Hidden Sands' total forces. They won't be coming at us anytime soon, especially with the war just started, them down a Kage, and with them fighting the Hidden Rock Village. I hope so, Naruto said with a sad smile. This type of thing shouldn't be a common occurrence, not even during war. Sakumo had to agree with the blonde there. That's it. Part 2 of the story will come out tomorrow. I will see you guys soon.